sorry about that, folks. If you have been with us, we've been having some technical difficulties. We had a power outage a little bit ago between the dairy and meat portions. So we thought we were on air, and apparently we weren't. So we apologize for that greatly. But if you're just joining us, we are in the Meat Goat Show. We are in intermediate showmanship. We have 4 exhibitors, plus the winner of beginner showmanship, Xander Dillon, has joined this class as well. We will go from there. We will see what the judge thinks. Right now, he's kind of putting them through the paces of switching sides, maintaining that good eye contact, all the things we look for in a good showman. Like I said, I am sorry that for a little bit you could not see what was going on or hear. Hopefully we are back up and running.
Class of showman. I think there's one showman out here who just does a different, sets himself apart a little bit more than from the others. Their goat is always set. Their animal's always in perfect position. Those feet and legs are always put straight under the shoulder, right down from the hock. It's a beautiful set. They always keep that animal in between me. They've always made eye contact. Even when I've done a little bit of a trickier switch there, they've always been able to get that animal in between me and them just about as fast as you can. Overall, they've been very impressive. I think there's plenty of decent showmen out here, but what just needs to be worked on a little bit, it may be just a little bit of the spacing in between the animals. We want to get a little bit crowded on the animal in front of us for some of us. And also, we want to just get a little bit of hyper-focused on those legs. We want to make sure that they're super set down in there, and we're just losing track of me as the judge.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Intermediate showmanship, grade 68, first place goes to Tatum Froling, second, Hensley Badel, and third, Brooklyn Robbins. Congratulations. We're now ready for our senior showmanship, grades 9 through 12. We have Ariana Thomas, Ariana Thomas, Adeline Froling, Grace Nobby, Sloan Ennis, Chloe Kramer, Isabella Taylor, Zeke Dillon, and Tatum Froling is moving up.
We should have 9 exhibitors in this class.
I'm Sam Scratch, so 8, I believe.
8. Okay, let me mark that out on my program. So we have 8 with the intermediate winner, Tatum Froling. So congratulations to her. We've got quite the array of goats out here too. I have a couple pygmies, some, market goats. I can't tell from here whether they're wethers or does. And we have some breeding stock as well.
So whoever wins this one will advance to the expert. And in the expert division is Maddie Broussard, and she won Tom Swain last year.
Really?
So-
I see that over there on the board.
Yep, she won last year for the 50th anniversary of Tom Swain.
And for those who are just joining, can you explain a little bit what Tom Swain is?
So Tom Swain, it was in honor of a guy who's really involved in 4-H and the agriculture community, and he passed away young, like in his 30s, I believe. And it's been an honor. They've been doing it since 1974. Last year was the 50th anniversary, and it's showmanship of almost every animal. So you have the goats, you have sheep, you have cattle, you have swine, and I believe that is it. They do not do horses, or they do not do any poultry or rabbits.
So it's all, I guess, quote unquote, large animal.
It's
Minus horses.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's see here. The judge is now moving exhibitors around, so you'll see this commonly in some of the more advanced showmanship classes. They will have the exhibitors switch animals to see. It's kind of a test, on your showmanship skills. How do you deal with an animal, that you've never worked with before, and how well do you show that animal's, ability and confirmation based on what you have right there in the moment.
Usually they also ask general knowledge questions about your livestock, and I haven't seen him do it yet, so I don't know if he is going to do it this time, if he waits till next time, but we'll have to see. I also think I really like how they switch the animals up, because it's not always up to the animal.
Yeah.
If you have a more rowdy goat today, it might
Sure.
not be your fault as the showman, and
Right.
when you switch and you get the rowdy, it sees how you handle it in a rowdy one, and see how you handle it in a calmer one that knows you better.
Yep.
So this is more your industry,
It is.
the showmanship for beef, meat, not beef.
Meat goats.
I know I said beef though.
That's all right. That's all right. I know what you meant. Yeah.
Goats don't produce beef, if you didn't know that.
No, they don't. They do produce, it's called chevin. And actually, goat meat is the leanest red meat. It is actually leaner than lamb. And I haven't really eaten much deer in my life, but it's kind of similar to deer meat or venison.
I've had venison. It's pretty good. I hunt, so.
All right. It's similar to that. Not completely the same, but I think if you were, comparing apples to oranges, that'd be what I'd compare it to.
So in the expert division, there'll only be 4 if the senior decides to advance, which more than likely they will.
Sure. Let's see. He's pulled just about everybody out. Everybody's taking turns. He wants to see, how well you set up that animal and how quick. Especially at this, division, these grade levels, you should be pretty quick to get your goat set up properly.
That's a young one.
say that might be the smallest goat I've seen at the whole show so far.
I don't know how young that one is, but
Yeah.
less than 2 months, I would guess.
Well, over here in class 4, there's a 3 to 6 month old pygmy, so maybe that one's it. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Maybe.
It's coming back.
What an amazing senior class. To me, a big part of showmanship is how well you work with your animals. Obviously, before we come into this fair, we're working with our animals. We're getting them ready for showmanship. We want to make sure that they're doing as best as they can the second I hit that ring. But for me, I like to a little bit of challenge for my showman. I want to see how you react when you get handed a different animal, especially an animal that might not do as well as your own or is of a different build than your own. And to me, that really separated you guys today. It was who could handle that pressure, that little bit of a switch up the best. Because in terms of switching, in terms of making sure that animal is always on the right side, you guys are all very, very even-tempered. You're all very even in terms of getting those legs set and making sure they're in place. But where it just changes is your temperament throughout and how you handled switching those animals for. For me, the first place showman today is just someone who got those legs set the fastest. They got them put almost cookie cutter every time. They were perfectly in place. Even when they switched to another animal, they were handed a different animal of a different kind. They got it handled very well. They had a little hiccup at the end, but in terms of overall showmanship, they did the best.
Our senior showmanship, grades 9 through 12, our first place goes to Grace Nobby. Second place, Zeke Dillon. And third, Chloe Kramer. Congratulations. Now we're ready for expert showmanship, and the winner of this showmanship class will be represented the Beauregard part for the Tom Swain show. So the winner of this will represent Beauregard for Tom Swain. We have Maddie Broussard, Tinsley Broussard, Reese Beaver, and then Grace Nobby will be entering as well. We have 4 entries. Go ahead and enter, please.
Expert division is coming in. Looks like Grace has decided to come back in for expert.
You can tell just by looking at this is a way more competitive of a class.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you said all of these kids, they've all won senior at some point in time.
Yes, they've all. So to be an so you could be technically a senior your freshman to senior year and never
Okay.
be an expert.
Bill, can you see the license plate number?
Yeah.
There we go.
We have a Chevy Malibu that needs moved so traffic can, parked cars can leave. It's license plate UDJ694. UDJ694 Chevy Malibu. I think black.
Same thing. I think he's going to make them all switch goats.
Really taking his time, but I haven't seen him ask questions on this round of showmanship.
I would say on this round of showmanship, it's less about general knowledge and more about who can exhibit the animal that they have the best to, you know, their animal's ability, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but like the two girls that came in with the market wethers, you know, they switched them off and put them on the two breeding does, because that's kind of a different, you know, style of showing a little bit.
So I believe they're sisters too.
Okay.
'Cause, I mean, they have the same last name, so
I would imagine
that's
so.
just my guess. But
Yeah, he's really paying attention. He's kind of, you know, checking to see who isn't paying attention, you know, or who gets caught up trying to fix their goat's legs or something like that. And he might move spots and they may not move with him. So he's, all the time, especially in showmanship, the judge is trying to kind of catch you when you're not paying attention. Let's see what he says.
Man, that is an intense expert showmanship class. Out here we have two different styles of showmen. We've got two letters, we've got two does. This is two totally different types of show. Obviously with leathers, we want to see them braced. I want to see that loin get tight. I want to see you get those legs stretched out and show the length of body. When it comes to a doe, I want you to put that shoulder right under. I want you to show them deep body. I want you to pop out that chest. I want you to get them set as square as you can and not overstretch them. And I think in total we just all kind of struggled with that when we switched. When we switched from does to leathers, we kind of were just showing them like does, and when we switched from leathers to does, we were kind of just showing them like leathers. We were overstretching the back legs, maybe not necessarily getting them set as square as I would have liked. So we're kind of even across the board there. However, to me there is such a thing as too intense. I want to see you move in this ring as slow as you can almost. I want you to keep your time, keep a good pace. The faster we get moving, the more upset these animals get, and that's just part of being a showman, knowing that. As we keep on getting faster and faster and moving, we're just getting a little bit sloppier in our pace. We're not taking our time, not paying attention to the judge. And it kind of messes up the pace of things. For me, the young person that comes out here and wins it just did a very good job of taking their time. They made sure to get that animal set. They were assessing their animal before handoff, making sure that they knew exactly what to do the second they got that animal in their hands. So for me, I'll go out and I'll shake the hand of the winner.
so, oh, he's about to talk.
In expert showmanship, and will be representing for Tom Swain. First place goes to Reese Beaver, second, Grace Nobby, and third, Tinsley Broussard. Congratulations. We are now ready to start our Junior Meat Doe show.
Okay, we will begin our junior meat doe show, the breeding portion. Looks like we're going to skip down to class 4, 3 to 6 months pygmy.
So something I would like to say about the
One entry.
expert showmanship is I've kind of seen like professional videos of people showing, and the guy Reese, he was like walking kind of like what I see, like the way his back was like kind of like launched and the way he was like walking kind of slow.
Well, I would say he was probably the most relaxed in that class.
Yeah. Like that's what I'm saying, like that's what I'm kind of comparing him to, like the more like...
Yeah, absolutely. I see what you're saying. But he came in very relaxed. The judge touched on it a little bit about being too intense. But let's see what he says about class 4.
Start off the day with a single pygmy. When he's awfully young, but when we get our hands on him, he's got quite a bit of muscle for a young animal. With these meat goats, I want to see a little bit more power. I want to see a little bit more depth of body than we did in the dairy. We want to see a little bit more of a deeper chest. With this young goat right here, we see a very nice level top. We get our hands on him, he's pretty well separated up there. He's got plenty of muscle covering that loin. We get our hands on the back, he's got plenty of it going down all the way down to his hamstrings. Where he just gets a little bit odd is he's a little bit short-bodied, even for a pygmy. And I'd maybe just like to longer his body just a little bit.
First place goes to Sloan Ennis. We're now ready for Class 5, which is 3 to 6 month old growers. Hensley Badel, Rylan Badel, Caroline Thomas, Nora Amberger, and Emery Morris. Next class is Class 6, 3 to 6 month old commercial. Be on deck, please.
Now Class 5 is entering the ring, 3 to 6 month old boar does. So these are animals that are intended for breeding purposes and not market.
You're probably close, but I'm not.
There's only 5 in this class, but I would consider it a pretty competitive class. Not entirely sure they know where to go. Trying to figure out. There we go. Now we're back on schedule. Couldn't figure out what he was doing. There we go. See what he says.
I start off this class with what is simply just the most complete doe, in my opinion. When it comes to size, she just kind of outclasses some of the others, especially in that front end. She's got the most bone structure of all the animals out here. She's got the most power in her chest. She's got the most muscle along that point of her shoulder and just completes herself all the way throughout. What I would maybe just like to add just a little bit, and I'd like to straighten her out in the top line. She does want to just dip a little bit right behind the shoulders, but other than that, a very complete doe. Behind her is the smallest doe in the class, quite a big change up. When it comes to structure, this animal is very, very complete. She's small, but she keeps herself very flat on that top line. You get her hands on her, she's got plenty of muscle throughout, but where she separates herself is in that back 1/3. As you get behind her, you see the separation in between her legs, how much butt this animal has is kind of amazing. What I would just like to change is I'd like her to be a little bit bigger since she's in a class with some bigger animals. But her chest is just a little bit narrow compared to the others in the class. As we get into third, we're just getting into some more narrow animals. Some animals that need to separate in the chest, some animals that need to separate in the back and third, and maybe just add a little bit of bone structure to the bottom three.
In the Class 5, 3 to 6 month forward, first place goes to Emily Morris. Second, Carolyn Thomas. Third, Rylan Badel. Fourth, Hensley Badel. And fifth, Nora Amberger. We're now ready for Class 6, 3 to 6 month commercial. Charlotte Hess with 2 entries and Brooklyn Robbins. Go ahead and enter, please. Our next class that needs to be on deck is Class 8. These are 6 to 9 month old boars.
So it looks like we have 3 exhibitors for Class 6, 3 to 6 month old commercials. So from my understanding, because Rush County does it a little differently, these are commercial refers to meat goats that just don't really exhibit boar characteristics. So, they could be dairy crossed with boar or another meat cross, or they could just be another meat type breed.
So, when you were in 4-H, what was your favorite thing? Like, what was your favorite project?
Ooh. Livestock-wise or just projects?
Just
looking back, I really did like the goat project a lot. I don't know. I took some other projects like sewing and things too, which they actually kind of created skills that become useful later in life. But what about you? What are some of your favorite projects that you take?
Probably speech is my favorite one.
Speech. All right.
Big public speaker guy.
Yeah, I can tell. You're natural at it too.
So did you have a favorite thing in goats? Did you prefer showmanship or just?
Really, I preferred breeding does. They're not as, hang on. We got results. Well, we'll see.
Charlotte right here.
There we go. Looks like we've gotten some direction in the ring. So everybody knows where to line up for placings. There we go.
I always like to see what happens when you mix a meat animal with a dairy animal. And basically what we get are these hyper-muscle dairy animals. It's always cool to see the muscle patterns that we get compared to the other actual pure-blooded dairy animals. We see a lot more muscle in the point of the shoulder. We see a lot more depth of body. And we tend to see a little bit more bone structure as well. The animal that's leading this class for me just shows the most resemblance to a boar animal or a meat animal. It's got the most bone structure. It's more separated in the chest apart from the dairy animal. It's got the most muscle along the point in the shoulder, and it holds itself the tightest along the top line. It just separates itself from the dairy genetics a little bit more. Going into second, we're kind of in between. We've got a little bit of a dairy side in terms of that back 1/3 where we see a lot of depth of body. We see a lot of point in that last hip. But where we separate ourselves is in that shoulder. We get a lot of muscle still. We get plenty of bone up front. We just want to separate her up front. We want to make sure that she separates her body. She explodes that chest and just makes a little bit more power. Up in the last, we have the animal. It just doesn't quite get it done today in terms of bone structure. She's a little bit frail in the leg and doesn't quite have the power I'd like to see up front. But in terms of a top line, this animal's quite excellent. She keeps her loin tight. She keeps those hips and pins quite well.
In Class 6, first place goes to Brooklyn Robbins. Second and third goes to Charlotte Hess. We're now ready for Class 8. This is 6 to 9-month-old growers. We have 7 entries: Xander Dillon, Alea Stainbrook, Anaya Stainbrook, Evan Kors, Madeline Caudell, and Grace Nobby with 2 entries. Our next class is Class 14 and Class 16. They need to be on deck. Class 14 and 16 on deck.
Oh, we gotta go down.
You're a little stubborn today.
Yeah, that'll happen. Got 7 entries in this class.
We have some more barn prizes. Sloan Ennis, Adeline Froling, Maddie Broussard, Rylan Badel, Luke Littmer,
See, this judge really takes his time. It's pretty thorough.
Hola. ¿Cómo está? Bien.
pretty interesting class of does. When it comes to meat goats, you can definitely find quite a few different styles. I lead the class with one of the more powerful does in the class. She separates herself in that chest. I mean, she's very, very deep chested. She's strong. She's got great bone structure. She may have her legs worked, but there's plenty of bone underneath there. When we get our hands on her, that's not just all hair. There's plenty of muscle up top, and she separates that back end very, very nicely. Where she just beats out that second place doe is she holds that top line just a little bit better. When I get into second, this doe's a little bit more elegant than the doe in front of her. She's a little bit longer bodied, a little bit longer necked, and walks a little better on the move, but she just quite isn't as powerful. She doesn't quite show us that meat goat characteristics of power. She doesn't have the muscle in the front that the first place goat does, and she breaks a little bit in the spine for me. And third, we also have probably the second most powerful doe in the class. She's very, very deep chested. When we look at her front legs, she's got plenty of bone. But when we get into her back legs, she almost wants to bow in a little bit. She almost wants to just kind of narrow in those hocks, and it just doesn't kind of sit well visually for me. As we move farther in the class, we just start to lose a little bit more bone structure. We start to lose a little bit more power, a little bit more muscle. When we get our hands on these animals back here, they just maybe need another 10, 20 pounds of muscle.
Okay, we are moving on
In Class 8 for
to class 14.
one entry, Xander Dillon.
Class 14 should be coming in the ring.
After this, we only have one more class, and then it's the grand champion and reserve grand champion for all the junior does.
All right.
Then it's senior meet.
Yep.
We have some more barn prizes. Madeline Cadell. Tatum Froling. Emma Herbert. Emery Morris. Grace Nobby.
Live stream, but the judge has got this doe set up in the corner, just out of eyesight of the camera. But she's in there, I promise.
Up in this single class. When we look at her from the side, we immediately acknowledge her beauty from the side. She's long necked. She's got a very, very pretty horn structure and a very nice head as we go down into that shoulder. We see plenty of muscle up front. We see plenty of rib going back into the back 1/3. But where I just kind of want to change her just a little is when I come up front and look at her, she almost wants to just bow out her legs just a little bit. She wants to spread those toes out. and it just doesn't have quite the visual effect that you would want in a doe like this.
Class 14, first place goes to Xander Dillon. We're now ready for Class 16, 18 to 24-month-old pygmies. There's one entry, Elliot Manning. Class 17 needs to be on deck. Class 17, and that'll be our last class. So just a reminder, we need all first and second place winners at ringside.
So we have one in this class. This is class 16, 18 to 24-month-old pygmy does. Same thing. You can see the judge. You can't see the goat.
We've got a single entry pygmy that comes out here. When we get our hands on the top, I'm actually really surprised by how wide the loin is on this animal. We get our hands on it, we see nothing but firm muscle up top. When we take it back, we see nothing but tight muscle on that back end. We really appreciate how it folds out from that middle to the back 1/3. As we get up front, there's plenty of chest fur, there's plenty of spring of rib up behind the shoulder. Where maybe we can just get a little bit better, it's just a little bit of an extension to the body. Even for a pygmy goat, we're a little short-bodied. We just kind of need to not be so compressed and elongate this animal. But overall, a very structurally sound animal.
Class 16, first place goes to Elliot Manning. We're now ready for Class 17. This is 18 to 24-month-old boar. And that's our last class before we select our grand champion and reserve grand champion for our pygmies and for our boar does. So in Class 17, Rylan Badel, Ariana Thomas, Caroline Thomas, Nora Hamburger, Emery Morris, Chloe Kramer, and Elijah Allen.
Okay, so we should have 7 entries in this next class. 18 to 24-month-old Bordeaux. There we go. They're coming on screen. You can see them.
This is the final class. I'm a grand champion for junior does. And then we go to senior.
Senior breeding does. Really, there's several in that portion of the show, so that'll take a little bit of time. I think the judge is going to take some time on this class. It's kind of hard to see from where we're sitting. go. This is a nice viewpoint of the top three.
A really, really good class of senior does. The doe that I lead out is by far the most complete in this class. She kind of rises to the top pretty easily. She sets herself apart as soon as she walks in the ring. When we get her on the move, she just walks very, very smoothly. She keeps that head held high. She shows the breed character in her head. She takes those legs. She makes nice long strides. She keeps them under herself. And it's a very, very nice appealing walk. When we get in front of her, we see a very, very deep chest for her. I mean, she's got plenty of power. She's got lots and lots of bone. When we get our hand over top, she's got a heck of a loin. When we get behind her, it's all the same. She's just as wide in the back as she is up front. She's just a very overall complete doe. In second, we have a doe who's a little bit more tall and a little bit more of that elegant side. When she's on the move, she walks very well. She holds that head high. She's a little bit longer neck than the doe in first, but when we get over top, she maybe just isn't quite as complete in terms of muscle structure. She isn't quite as deep-chested. She gets a little bit looser in the back end than the first place doe, but overall, just has a lot of structural soundness. The same kind of goes for the third place doe. She's a little bit more powerful than the doe ahead of her. When we get over top, she gets a little bit weak in her spine. She doesn't quite have a whole lot of a back end. And when we put her on the move, she just quite doesn't glide like the other two in front of her. As we move on farther down the class, we see some does that just quite aren't separated in the chest. They don't have the bone that I would look for, but overall hold themselves quite well structurally in the back part of their body.
Class 17, first place goes to Elijah Allen. Second, Emery Morris. Third, Chloe Kramer. Fourth, Nora Hamburger. Fifth, Ariana Thomas. Sixth, Rylan Badel. And seventh, Caroline Thomas. We now need all of our first and second place winners for our pygmies. All pygmy first and second place winners. We'll need Sloan Ennis with her first place. And class 16 we'll need, let's see, Elliot Manning. I think we just...
Think you want to show goats next year?
I don't think I could show goats.
Overall structure, they find themselves almost nearly the same when it comes to their top line, their front, their back. Where it just gets a little bit different is the muscle development, and it's just quite not fair for the points that this animal's larger and it's had more time to develop more muscle, and that's what's probably going to separate it from today. When we get into the smaller animal, when they have the same structure, there isn't really anything to set them apart. We got to go off of the muscle structure of these animals. After all, they are a meat animal.
Grand champion junior pygmy doe goes to Elliot Manning, and the reserve grand champion pygmy doe goes to Sloan Ennis. Congratulations. We're now ready for our selection of our grand and reserve grand champion junior bower does.
Now, so for this, we have classes 5, class 8, class 14, and class 17.
I think my aunt would also be quite upset if...
What?
My aunt would also be quite upset if she just found goats randomly in our barn. You said show goats, and I said she'd be upset.
Yeah.
Hide in one of the horse stalls.
You could, absolutely. Taking his time to really look over these junior Bordeaux. See what he says.
A really competitive grand drive out here. We've got 4 goes up and out of first places that all show their own unique traits. We've got a super doe who's big and robust. We've got a 3 under that are also just very graceful. We've got another one that's got plenty of power. We've got one that shows plenty of breed character in that head and neck. We've got one that shows plenty of level topness, as well as plenty of structure in the back. And it's just a question of what fulfills the most, which animal is going to complete themselves across their whole body the best. For me, when I'm looking at these meat animals, I want to see very, very deep-chested. I want to see level tops. I want to see nice, wide rear ends. And I want to see them hold that muscle between the point of the shoulder and in that back 1/3, right where you see the hip connect to the ribs. For me, these points are extremely key on a meat animal because ultimately what these are animals that are going to slaughter or breeding for animals that are going to slaughter, and they need to fill out those meat points. The when we look at these, we just want one additional thing. We want to see some elegance in the head and neck, and I think that's what really separates it today. When we get them on the move, we want to see them hold that head high, and we want to see them kind of strut their stuff almost. We want to see them keep their legs under and take nice long strides as well. So as I go out here and shake the hand of your Grand and Reserve, just keep in mind what we need to work on for next year, what points we're looking for in our animals.
As our Grand Champion Junior Bordeaux Drive files out, we'll get ready for our commercial go.
Congratulations, our Grand Champion Junior Bordeaux goes to Elijah Allen. And our Reserve Grand Champion Junior Bordeaux goes to Zeke Dillon. Congratulations. We're now ready to start our senior division for the meet goat. We'll start out with our first pygmy class. We have one entry, 1 year and under 2, Melissa Red.
Well, I thought we were going to do a Grand Champion Junior Commercial Doe Drive. Now I'm not so sure. Right now in the ring is class number 19, 1 year and under 2-year-old pygmy. I guess we are going on to the senior show.
We have a correction on the Bordeaux's Grand Elijah Allen and Reserve Grand Grace Nobby. So congratulations.
This class, we've got a single doe. One who shows us a really good example of structure, one who's level over top. She's deep-chested. She needs a little bit of bone structure, but overall this animal is very, very sound. We get into her ribs and she fills herself completely out, and overall just a really nice doe.
In class 19, 1 and under 2, first place goes to Melissa Red. We're now ready for class 22, 2 and under 3-year-old pygmy. We have 3 entries, 4 entries. Chloe Kramer, Reese Beaver, Isabella Taylor, and Samantha Knowles. Oh, sorry.
So class 20 is getting ready to enter the ring, and that is 1 year and under 2-year-old boar. There is 1 entry. It is Audrey Siebert. Hopefully she makes her way into camera shot here so you can see her and her doe. There we go. Well, kind of.
got a single yearling paint doe here that really just kind of gets the job done. That's kind of the doe she is. She comes out here, she's ready to get to work. She's got a deep chest. Maybe could be a little bit more separated, but holds plenty of muscle in there. She keeps herself filled throughout that shoulder. She stays level in that top. She goes on the rib into her back 1/3, maybe just a little bit sloppily. There's maybe just a little bit too much fat in between that area instead of muscle. But when we get behind her, she maybe just gets a little bit weak. However, as we stand over top of her, we can really appreciate how she does come from the hooks and pins down into that shoulder and hip. As we get over top, we also feel a really nice loin. Overall, this animal has a lot of great qualities.
Class 20, first place, goes to Audrey Siebert. Now we're ready for Class 22, 2 and under 3-year-old pygmy. 4 entries, Chloe Kramer, Reese Beaver, Isabella Taylor, and Samantha Knowles. Class 23 needs to be on deck. Class 23 on deck, please.
The class 22 is coming in the ring. This is 2 years and under 3 pygmy senior does.
We have some more barn prizes. Nora Amberger, Landon Badel, Baylor Broussard, Jackson Clark, Aubrey Clance, Zeke Dillon.
We'll see what he says.
Here's a pretty tough class of pygmy animals. We lead off with the doe that just probably completes herself the most for me. She's the most level-topped of the bunch. She doesn't want to get high-hipped. She keeps herself nice and smooth throughout the top line. When we look at her belly, we see that she holds that up pretty well as well. Where she also separates herself is in that back. When we get behind her, we see that she wants to hold her out with her legs. She wants to keep that rump looking really nice and just separate the muscle tones extremely well. When we get behind her, we have another doe that just follows kind of in type and kind. She's powerful up front. She's got power out back. Where she just lacks for me is she wants to get a little high hip. She wants to dip behind the shoulders and raise those hips up, and it just doesn't quite have the top line appeal that I would like. As we get into third, we kind of have the same scenario. We got some high hitness going on. But where she also just falls a little bit short, is she just gets a little bit narrow in that back 1/3. She doesn't want to quite separate herself, but also has some very good qualities up front. I round out the class with probably just the shortest animal in terms of length of body. They don't quite have the power I would like to see up front and out back, and just kind of compress themselves with length of body. They probably hold themselves the best in class on the top line.
In Class 22, first place, Chloe Kramer. Second, Reese Beaver. Third, Samantha Knowles. And fourth, Isabella Taylor. We're now ready for Class 23. 2 and under 3 Bordeaux. We have 4 entries. Sandra Dillon, Nora Amberger, Grace Nobby, and Madeline Cadell. 2 and under 3. Our next class will be Class 25. There's 1 entry, needs to be on deck, and then Class 26.
Okay, so class 23 is coming in, 2 years and under 3 years Bordeaux. So more than likely these are does that, have produced kids or will be probably this year. So the qualities that you kind of look for in one of these classes change, right? We have 4 entries.
As we get into our bootier does, we kind of see things start to get a little bit more loose in the body. But here's one that definitely holds herself up well throughout her age. We see her hold herself up on that top line really well despite her age, and a big problem in meat goats is as they age, they want to break in that top. So I can really appreciate that. When we get in front of her, she wants to get really deep in her chest, and I really like to see that. When we get her on the move, she's nice and elegant. She keeps her legs underneath her well. But maybe she just needs a little bit of help. It's just in behind the point of the shoulder and maybe in the hip. When we get into second place, we've got one that's just a little bit younger and maybe just a little bit more green than the other. She needs a few more pounds to just outclass some of the other does. She's got the structure to have a bunch of power up, to have a bunch of muscle up front. She's got the structure out back to have it. She just needs that weight to fill herself out. As we go on farther back, we're just getting a little bit narrow in these two does. We're just not quite getting the separation in the chest that we would like to see. We're not getting quite filled out behind the point of shoulder. But what we are excelling is in that top line. Both of these does keep their top line very well. They go out from their hooks and pins nice and well down into that hip. So both of them do have some great qualities. They just need a little bit more power for me today.
Class 23, first place, Grace Nobby. Second, Madeline Cardell. Third, Xander Dillon. And fourth, Nora Amberger. We're now ready for Class 25. 3 and under 4 pygmy doe. There's one entry, Chloe Kramer. Class 26 needs to be on deck.
Here's a single entry pygmy goat that's pretty unique. One that's definitely explosive. That's how I would describe this animal. It may not be the longest body, but man, it's packed full of muscle. It's packed behind the shoulders. It's packed in the hip. It's got plenty up in the chest and plenty out behind. Where that just becomes a little bit of an issue is it almost makes her look just maybe a little manly. She's got a little bit of masculinity to her due to all her muscle, but one that's definitely cool to look at and get your hands on any day.
Class 25, first place goes to Chloe Kramer. We're now ready for Class 26. 3 and under 4-year-old boer does. We have 4 entries. Zeke Dillon, Ariana Thomas, Audrey Siebert, Chloe Kramer. Classes 27 and 28 need to be on deck. Those will be our last 2 classes, and then we'll select the grand and reserve grands.
Class 26 is making its way into the ring. Got four does. These are 3 years under 4. We will look.
So what would you say is like the biggest difference between your fair and here?
Oh, that's hard to say. I don't know. There's a lot of similarities, right? There are some differences. I would say at least what comes to mind pretty quickly is the fact that, you guys have your Tom Slade round robin show, whereas, Rush County doesn't have that. At least in terms of livestock.
Good.
Oh, go ahead.
Good food there too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I stick with my, basics. I go with ribeye sandwich or, the chicken on a stick, an egg roll on the side, some rice. It's pretty tasty. You can't beat that. Then I usually round out the week at some point with a corn dog. Pretty basic in my fair food.
Any desserts?
Occasionally like an elephant ear or funnel cake.
Those are good.
You can't beat a funnel cake. Alright.
We've definitely got 2 different sides of doe out here. We start off with one of the biggest in the class. The one who's definitely got the most weight on her and is the most complete up in her front 1/3. Behind that shoulder, she wants to fill out really nice, and she wants to separate in her chest. She wants to show some depth of body up front. And as we travel back, she wants to get nice and that nice, pretty breed characteristic spring of rib. She maybe doesn't fill out quite as well as I would like, but she fills out in that hip. She's got plenty of butt to her. But as we look at her up top, maybe she just wants to get a little bit soft top at some points, but nothing too extreme. In second place is a smaller size though, one who's got plenty of bone up front. She's got a nice chest to her. She's got some depth of body. She needs a couple pounds to fill out behind her ribs. But where she just excels for me is up in that top line. She's pretty up there. She holds it well. Where she falls for me, however, though, is in this hip. When we get back behind her, she just wants to get a little bit narrow. She wants to get a little bit weaker than I would like to see. As we move back, we kind of see the two same themes with these two animals back here. They just kind of get weak and narrow in that back hip. They don't want to fill out quite as well in that behind the ribs. And where they just need a little bit of help is maybe some time and some weight to fill them out nicely and make them look a little bit more like that powerful senior bear that they can be.
In Class 26, first place, Chloe Kramer. Second, Zeke Dillon. Third, Audrey Siebert. And fourth, Ariana Thomas. We're now ready for Class 27. This is a 3 and under 4-year-old commercial doe. Lainey Ferris with 1 entry. And Class 28 needs to be on deck. And we will be selecting our grands and reserve grands.
One entry for this Class 27. 3 years under 4. Commercial. Sitting in. Good. She's set up right in front of the camera.
Is this 27 or 28?
This is Class 27. 28 will be 4 years under 5 pygmy.
Like I said earlier, we get some pretty unique looking animals when we mix meat and dairy together. My favorite part about them every time is looking at that shoulder, looking at how much muscle is produced in that shoulder because of the tightness of the skin, because of the depth of body that they produce every time. Where they just falter a little bit for me is that back one-third. They get a little bit narrow. It doesn't quite want to fill out like I would enjoy. But on the top line, on the bottom, throughout that shoulder and throughout that hip, I can really appreciate this doe from a structural standpoint.
Class 27, first place, Lainey Ferris. The last class is Class 28, Isabella Taylor, 4 and under 5-year-old pygmy doe.
Okay, Class 28, 1 entry as well.
After this, we have the grand champions for seniors.
Yep, we go right back into Grand Drive.
Then we start group classes.
Which I'm excited to see those too.
Definitely is sizable. When we get our hands on her, there's definitely some fat covering the muscle, but we can feel it over top. We can feel it on the shoulder. She's separated in that chest and definitely holds herself. But where we just kind of have to dock her a few is in her weight. She definitely needs to lose a few, but she also kind of wants to get pinched in the middle of the spine there. We can see the hip raises and we can see the shoulder raises, but we also see this little curvature on the back spine that we don't necessarily want to see.
Class 28, first place, Isabella Taylor. We're now ready to select our Grand and Reserve Grand Senior Pygmy Does. We need Melissa Red with her first place. Chloe Kramer, Reese Beat, and Isabella Taylor with her 4 under 5.
Did we have any commercials?
There was one. I gotta look back to where it was. It was class 27.
As you've gone throughout this pygmy goat show and seen different ones out here, we've seen a lot of different styles out here. Obviously, we've had some more powerful ones, we've had some larger ones, we've had some ones that are more structurally sound. But for me today, I just kind of want the most complete. I don't necessarily want raw power when it comes to these pygmies. I don't want them to look too butchy. I kind of want them to show a little bit of femininity throughout their body, to show some structural correctness throughout those legs, and to keep themselves separated in that hip. And that's what I'm looking for today as I go out and shake the hands of your Grand and Reserve champion.
Champion Senior Pygmy Doe goes to Chloe Kramer, and our Reserve Grand Champion Senior Pygmy Doe, Reese Beaver. Congratulations. We're now ready for our Grand and Reserve Grand Champion Bower Does. We need Chloe and Zeke Dillon. Grace Nobby, Madeline Cabell. Audrey Siebert. Following this class, we'll be selecting our Grand and Reserve Grand Senior Commercial Doe. Once again, another very enjoyable class of does. But for me, there's two out here that I can really just appreciate all around. I can appreciate the fact that as senior does, they've held up quite this well throughout their age, that they've kept the bone structure that they were born with, and how they've held up in terms of muscle quality. As we move on throughout their top lines, they hold themselves very well. They keep that muscle across that loin and don't get too fatty or too soft in terms of the muscle.
Where I get a little bit separated in these two is in terms of power. In terms of the depth of body that we see in the front, head, and chest, that we see all throughout the ribs and up behind the there we go, and up behind the shoulder. So overall, we just kind of have a few points that separate these two. So right now, I'll go ahead and shake the hands of your Grand Reserve.
Our Grand Champion Senior Bow goes to Grace Nobby. And our Reserve Grand Champion Senior Bow goes to Chloe Kramer. Congratulations. We're now selecting a Grand Reserve Grand Commercial Bows.
Okay. So I see what they did. They took the junior commercial does and they are bringing them out here with the senior commercial does. For that grand drive. That makes sense.
After this will be the group classes.
Yes.
I like group classes.
It's just nice to see, you know, the continuity between generations.
I like the mother and daughter one. That's my favorite one. That's my favorite non-showmanship class.
Yeah. Think. I mean, you could get a couple goats and then you could show in that class.
That'd take a couple of years, though,
Yeah,
for
well,
mother and daughter.
Yeah, probably. Don't you worry. I'm going to turn you into a goat enthusiast yet.
Yeah, you're going to have to commit to my aunt, not me.
Okay. I'll keep trying then.
We've got a pretty small grand drive out here with only 3 animals, but I think there's a lot of competition in between these 3. I think we have these 2 smaller does that definitely show off their qualities, and we've definitely got this one larger doe who shows a lot more power compared to the other 2. Maybe just because of size, but probably just because of the pure structure of her body. For me, when it comes to these commercial does, they're still getting listed as a meat animal. We want to see that power. We want to see them filled out. We want to get our hands on them and feel the completeness throughout their body. But we still want to hold some grace. We still want to hold some femininity through that head and neck and keep it as well as we can. Where I think I just get a little bit separated in between our Grand and Reserve is in that back 1/3. We've got one that just gets a little bit narrower, a little bit more pinched than the other, and that just kind of ultimately does it for me today.
Grand Champion Senior Commercial Bow goes to Lainey Ferris, and our Reserve Grand Champion goes to Brooklyn Robbins. Congratulations. Now we're ready to start our group classes for our bowlers. Class 33, Yetta Sire has 2 entries, Rylan Badel and Grace Nobby. get a sire class, it's 3 does with the same sire.
As we get into this get a sire and look at these 3 does, we definitely see 2 different styles of does from these 2 sires. Obviously, in first we've got these animals that are just a little bit more powerful. They're more separated in that back 1/3. They've got more bone structure and they've got a little bit more of a leveler top. When we get into this second place sire, we kind of look at these does and we see a lot of femininity. That's the difference. We see a lot of long neck, we see a lot of grace in that horn set, and a very, very nice Roman nose as we get into the head. Where they just kind of lose out is they don't quite have the power or the size that those does ahead of them do.
In Class 33, get a sire, first place, Grace Nobby. Second, Ryland Daigle. We're now ready for Class 34, Produce a Dam. These are 2 does with the same dam. We have 5 entries, Hensley Daigle, Ryland Daigle, Ariana Thomas, Grace Nobby, and Emery Morris.
Not here this year.
Progressive Dam is going into the ring right now. They are in the ring, I should say. There's 2 does with the same dam. So it can span through multiple generations, I believe.
I don't know.
But I think overall the judge is looking for
Well, she's been here before. I just haven't known. And
animals
because they cut down the building,
structure and
they didn't have
all
enough
of
space
that.
for her.
When I'm coming out here and I'm looking at these 2 does out of the same dam, I want to see quality similarities. I want to see breed characteristics that are obviously getting passed down from the mother to the daughters. That's what we're looking for anytime we breed animals. We breed animals to get the good qualities that we want from doe to daughter. here's two that definitely show it. Both of them have plenty of good bone structure. Both of them fill out between their shoulder blades very nicely in terms of muscle. They both are deep in their chest floor. They both have a nice horn set and a nice Roman nose, and both of them definitely separate themselves in that hip. Overall, they're obviously getting past traits from the mother that we want to see in their offspring. When we move back, we have two older does over here that definitely show some nice characteristics. Both of them have very, very similar chest floors. When we look at them, they're both tucked. They're both very neat, very clean, very feminine. Maybe they're not the most powerful, but they have very appealing fronts to them. We definitely see that the mom is passing on the horn set because they're definitely very similar. When we get on our hands on top of them, though, we do find them just to be a little bit weak, a little bit soft-muscled. But on the back end, we're also holding a high standard on the terms of the femininity and the gracefulness of these two does. As we move on back into third, we have two does that are a little bit different. They're not quite as similar as I would like to see them. We have a larger doe who's got plenty of bone structure and a smaller doe who's got plenty of bone structure. Apart from that, though, they kind of separate themselves from each other just a little bit. One of them fills out between the shoulders, one of them doesn't. One of them has a little bit more of a rump than the other. As we move back here, we have two does that are similar in certain ways, but not necessarily ways that we would like to see. Both of them are just lacking in bone structure. They're not quite as separated in that chest fold that we are, but where they do get very similar, and I appreciate, is in that top line. They hold themselves well. They hold themselves tight. We can see it along the stomach line, and we can see it up top, and that's something that we're always looking for. We round out the class with what I'm assuming is probably the two youngest does in the class. Both of them are just lacking a little bit in weight. So we're not quite seeing the muscle definition that the dam may have passed on to these two offspring. When we get our hands on them, they're just a little bit soft-bodied and not necessarily something we want to see. We also get very, very different in terms of the back one-third. This doe over to the left has more of a separation, more of muscle definition in the back, while the other one is a little bit more narrow and doesn't quite show off what we want to see.
In our produce sedan class, first place, Grace Nobby. Second, Ariana Thomas. Third, Emily Morris. Fourth, Rylan Badel. And fifth, Hensley Badel. We're now ready for class 35. And our last group class for Boer goats is mother and daughter. There are 5 entries: Caroline Thomas, Nora Amberger, Grace Nobby, Madeline Caudell, and Chloe Kramer. I have some more barn prizes. Reese Beaver, Hensley Badel, Madeline Badel, Tinsley Broussard, Xander Dillon, Evan Coors, Emma Hash, Ariana Thomas, Reed Whipple. Barn prizes.
Somehow I knew these does were coming out here as mother and daughter after I saw them during the show. You can definitely tell where the daughter gets her hair from, there's no doubt about that. But when we look at them from a structural standpoint, we're just seeing the most key parts are getting passed down, and that's what we want to see. We want to see our bone structure, we want to see our shoulders, and we want to see our hips getting passed down to the daughter if that's what we want. This doe has amazing bone structure in the front. She's got amazing bone structure in the back. She fills out between her shoulders and she fills out in that hip. And we see it in the daughter. Those are three of the most important things to me when I'm judging. And when I see that that's getting passed on, that's a critical point for me in any form of a farm. As we get into second place, we have kind of a similar situation. We've got a doe that has some great qualities that are getting passed on. Where we just fall a little bit is I think that she just has a few changes that are coming from the sire that I can't tell. This doe's a little bit more powerful in the chest. The dam's definitely got the top line that I would like to see any day of the week. And so does the daughter. But when we look at the chest and the daughter, we kind of see her getting a little bit more frail than what her dam is. When we look at the bone structure, she might just be a pinch narrower than her mom as well. As we move into third, we've got two does that are definitely very pretty to look at. We've got the dam who separates herself really well in her chest. She separates herself in the back, and she fills out between the point and the shoulder. But when we look at the daughter, we're just seeing some major differences. We're seeing a lot more bone, definitely a different hairstyle that I'm guessing comes from the father. And we just kind of get a little bit looser on top, actually, than what the dam is, which is surprising when you look at them in terms of muscle. In fourth, we got two older does that are definitely showing each other off. We've got the dam over here, who maybe isn't the widest in front, but she's pretty in the head. We get behind her and we see her fill out between that shoulder. Where she just lacks is she doesn't quite fill out between the hip, and we see that pass on to the daughter, which is a trait we just don't necessarily want to pass on. Rounding out the class is just two does that are very, very different than everything else in front of them. They definitely got a little bit of dairy or something in them, and we just see a little bit of an odd piece to them. When we look at them in the hips, it's just very, very different, and we don't necessarily want to pass that on. Because of how sharp those hip hooks and pin bones are, it just definitely separates them from a class, and it's not necessarily a quality we want to be passing on.
In Class 35, first place, Grace Nobby. Second, Chloe Kramer. Third, Madeline Cadell. Fourth, Caroline Thomas. And fifth, Nora Amberger. We're now ready for our pygmy group classes. Class 36, Get a Sire, has one entry, Chloe Kramer. Meat weathers need to be getting ready and on deck. The lower meat weathers need to be getting ready and on deck. We have two group classes left before we start the meat classes.
So hello everybody, welcome back. We are currently starting the pygmy group classes. Right now we're in class 36, Get of Sire. And in this class, it is Chloe Kramer. She is the only one in it.
Here's another thing that were pretty imprinted in my mind from the show. I have no doubt that these are all the same sire, because when you look at them, these were three of the most powerful pygmy goats that were in the show. They were super, super muscular. They were super separated, almost at some points too muscular. But I'm guessing that definitely has to be coming from the father's side due to all three of these does being as big as they are. When we look at them from a structural standpoint, they're also very sound. We see plenty of separation in the chest. We see plenty of separation in the back. We see good bone structure. We see some behind the shoulders filled out and the hips filled out. The only thing that we can really dock these animals on, or maybe some of them have a little bit of a high hip, some of them want to get a little pinched, and maybe we just need a little bit of added femininity to these does.
36, get a sire. First place, Chloe Kramer. We're now ready for our produce of dam. One entry, Chloe Kramer, produce of dam. This is our last group class. We'll be ready for meat weather classes. Need to be on deck.
Currently in class 37, producive dam for Chloe Kramer.
It's almost like these animals were just in here and we were just talking about them. Once again, we have two animals that we just appreciate the power of them. That's almost all that you can look at when you see these animals is the raw separation and the raw muscle that these two does have. When we look at them and get our hands on them, you're just kind of baffled at how tight they are, how well muscled they are behind the shoulder, how much they fill out in that hip, and how well they just carry their muscle throughout their body. But like we said earlier, maybe we just like a little bit less and just to clean them up, make them look a little bit more feminine.
Okay, we are ready for the meat weather portion of the Meat Goat Show.
Produce of dam class, first place, Chloe Kramer. Ready to begin our meat weather classes. Weathers, ready to come in. Our first class for meat weathers, class 39 is 45 to 50 pounds. We have two entries, Hensley Badel and Kinsey Froling. Class 40 and 41 need to be on deck.
Alright, so we are in the meat weather portion of the show. Class 39, 45 to 50 pounds. Two entries in this class.
Starting off our weather show, we once again have two pretty different styles here. We've got the smaller weather up in first here. One who carries himself on his top line maybe a little bit better than the one behind him and fills out a little bit better behind that shoulder. But when we get our hands on him, we can actually really appreciate this animal. When he gets set, he's nice and tight over top. He shows his muscle structure extremely well. He holds it in his chest. Maybe we'd like to see a little bit more bone on this animal, and maybe we'd like to see him just a little bit larger. But overall, a very quality animal. In second, we've got the larger weather. He's a little bit taller, he's a little bit longer than the first one, but what he just looks lacking is he isn't quite as muscular. He doesn't fill out quite as well behind that shoulder, and he doesn't quite stay as hard over top when he gets set. But still, overall, very nice weather.
Class 39, first place, Hensley Badel. Second, Kinsey Froling. We're now ready for Class 40. We have one entry, 58 pounds, Nora Amberger. One entry. Class 41 and 42 need to be on deck. 41 and 42 on deck, please.
This is class 40, 51 to 59 pounds. This weather comes in weighing at 58 pounds. Shown by Laura Hamburger. Here we go.
As we get into 50-pound wethers, there's two things that can happen. You can either have a really small wether that's maybe a little overweight, or you can have a wether that's almost perfectly weighted. I think this wether out here is the latter. When we look at him, he's plenty lean. He doesn't have too much fat covering over his muscle. We get our hands on him, and when he sets, he's nice and tight. When we get on a little bit behind him, he maybe just doesn't have the muscle I'd like to see from behind, but when we get in front of him, he definitely carries himself well enough. Overall, a really nice wether.
Class 40, first place, Nora Amberger. We're now ready for Class 41. The weight is 60 to 65 pounds. Caroline Thomas, Tatum Froling, Luke Littmer, and Xander Dillon. 60 to 65 pound wethers. Classes 42 and 43 on deck, please.
All right, for class 41, 60 to 65 pounds. We have 4 entries in this class. Exhibitors are working really hard to get their animals set up and looking good for the judge.
As we move up in weight on these wethers, I expect more and more muscle to keep developing and more work to be put on these animals. And the wether that leads this class is definitely one that I can tell has been walked, that's been active because of the muscle development that we see throughout his body. As you put him on the move, you can definitely see it very well in the point of that shoulder and in the hip. But when we get our hands on him, even when he's not set, he's just tight. He's just well muscled over the top. Overall, just a very solid animal once you get your hands on him. The wether that comes in second could definitely use a few pounds, but is another one that I just appreciate once I get my hands on him. I like to get down and feel that top line and make sure that it's solid. If I feel point of the fat on the edges, it just doesn't quite sit well with me on an animal that's here for a meat quality. And that's what kind of sold us into third over here. When we get him on the move, he looks real pretty, but when we get our hands on him, he is just a little soft. He just gets a little soft in the top line, and he gets a little soft under the shoulder. We just kind of feel the fat in the loin, and that's not exactly what we're looking for when it comes to a market animal. We round out the class with the smallest of them, who also kind of just has that same problem. He's got great bone structure. He's got a great chest. He's even separated in that back end, but once we get our hands on him and feel that muscle, we just can tell that it's not exactly developed. It's not exactly as hard and as nice as we would like to see in any type of market or wether animal.
Class 41, first place, Luke Littmer. Second, Tatum Froling. Third, Xander Dillon. And fourth, Caroline Thomas. We're now ready for Class 42. There are 2 entries, Hensley Badel and Camille Deaton. 2 entries. Class 43 and 44 needs to be on deck, please.
Say class 42 is coming in the ring. These are 66 to 70 pound wethers. And actually, both of these wethers weigh 67 pounds.
Have some more barn prizes. Emmett Littner.
When we look at market wethers, right, we are looking at animals that if they were to hang on the rail today, more than likely, which one, is going to produce the most product while also staying correct?
Like I said earlier, we want to see our muscle development go up as the weight goes up, because ultimately that's what is adding weight to these animals. With this first wether here, we see an overall very nice structurally sound animal as well. He's got plenty of bone, he's separated in his chest, and he's nice and separated in that back end. When we get our hands on him, is he the most toned? No, but he's got plenty of muscle and we don't feel much fat around the edges. It's just not quite hard. When we get our hands on the animal behind him, however, it's just a little too soft for me. We can feel some fat around the edges on the line. We're definitely getting a little bit of a gut there. And when we get behind him, we can just kind of see some sloppiness on the move. But in terms of structure, this animal is very sound. He's got the separation we want. He fills out between those shoulders. It's just filled with the wrong things.
Class 42, first place, Hensley Badel. Second, Camille Deaton. We're now ready for class 43, 71 to 75 pounds. Adeline Froling, James Versman, Nora Amberger, Anaya Steinbrook, Dakota Gearhart, Eli Biller, Emmett Littmer, and Rylan Badel. Classes 44 and 45 need to be on deck.
This is class 43, 8 entries. 71 to 75 pounds. I mean, these animals are very close in weight to one another. Muscling is going to be the key factor that, kind of distributes the top from the bottom.
our largest class of weathers yet, and we lead off with one that's just exceptional. When this young lady gets him stuck and you put your hands on him, it's like grabbing a rock. Over the top, he's just as solid as you can be. He's been worked plenty. When you grab onto that back hind end, it's nothing but pure muscle. As we get our hands up onto his chest, he's not quite as muscular as I'd like, but he holds himself excellently still. In terms of structure, he's even better. He keeps himself super separated in that back. He keeps himself super separated in that front. He's got depth of chest. He's got quite a bit. When we get into second, we have a wether who's maybe just a little bit of a different style. He's got the muscle that we're looking for. It's developed. It's tough. It's nice and hard. When we get our hands on him, we can appreciate it. He's filled out between the shoulder. Where he just doesn't quite meet it for me is I'd like to separate him in that chest, give him some more depth of chest and some power, and I would also just like to add a little bit more onto that hind end. As we get into third, we have an animal that maybe is almost too separated in his chest. For the size of this animal and the weight that he is, he really separates those shoulder blades out, almost pops them, and it makes it look like he doesn't quite fit in between the shoulders. When we get our hands on him, he's pretty developed in terms of muscle. Maybe he's not as wide in the loin as I would like, but the muscle quality is always there. As we get further on back in the class, we just start putting our hands on some softer tissue. We put our hands on some rear ends that just want to get a little bit loose, and we grab over top onto some loins that maybe just have a little bit of excess fat on the edges. But overall, great class of weathers.
Class 43, first place, Ryland Badel. Second, Adeline Froling. Third, Eli Biller. Fourth, Dakota Gerhardt. Fifth, Anaya Stainbrook. Sixth, Nora Amberger. Seventh, Emmett Littmer. And eighth, James Versman. Our next class, class 44, is 76 to 80 pounds. We have 3 entries, Ariana Thomas, Chloe Kramer, and Alea Stainbrook.
Class 44 coming in the ring.
Classes 45 and 46 need to be on deck. We have more barn prizes. Eli Biller.
So these are goats that weigh 76 to 80 pounds, and it really looks like there's only a pound difference between all three, from 79 to 80 pounds.
James Versman.
As we get into heavier weight weathers, our biggest fear is definitely overweightness. We don't want to get our hands at any point on muscle and just kind of feel fat. We don't want to put our hands on bellies, and we don't kind of want to see a gut. The animal that comes in first today is just the one that's probably the most trim in terms of its fat. Is he structurally sound? Yes. Does he separate himself? Yes. But all these 3 animals are very similar in terms of their structure. When we get our hands on top of him, he just has the most muscle up top. It's the most solid. It's the most reasonable. And he also holds his top line the best. When we get into second, we put our hands on maybe a little bit too much fat. We put our hands on the loins and we feel some jiggle, and that's not what we want to see. But we're also seeing a little bit of a pinch in the spine. Although these are market animals, we still want to see structural soundness, and that's always something to look at. As we get into third place, this animal has a lot of great qualities. It's got probably the most bone structure in the class. It's got a good chest, but it's simply just too heavy. We see the gut, we see too much. When we see that much fat, oftentimes we put our hands on the animal and you're just getting a little bit of jiggle. You can't really properly assess the meat value, and you can't assess how much muscle is on the animal. But overall, still a really nice animal, just too heavy for me today.
In Class 44, first place, Chloe Kramer. Second, Ariana Thomas. And third, Alea Stainbrook. We're now ready for Class 45. 81 to 85 pounds. Samuel Cathy, Grace Nobby, Luke Cathy, and Evan Kors. 4 entries in 81 to 85. So 3 entries, Sam Cathy, Grace Nobby, and Evan Kors.
Class 45 in the ring. So these are animals weighing 81 to 85 pounds. There's a little bit more of a spread on these 4. You have 2 weighing in at 81, 1 weighing in at 82, and the heavyweight weighing in at 85. Kind of like the judge talked about in the last class, when you get into these heavier weight classes, it does become a little bit more about keeping muscle on and not fat, because usually these animals are older, and I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing by any means, but it does become a delicate balance between feeding and muscle, so muscle and fat.
As we get into this heavyweight set of leathers, we have one that leads the class with a very, very wide chest floor, and I can really appreciate it as I look at it. He's got plenty of bone structure, and he's big hooves. If this guy was given a couple more months to go, he'd definitely become something really, really cool. When we get our hands on him, he's nice and tight. He stays stuck very well. We get our hands on that back 1/3, and that's where I think I appreciate him the most. When it comes into his hindquarters, he's very, very tight. He's very smooth. That muscle's very well developed. When I go into second place, I put my hands on this animal, and that's about all I have to go off of. I get up there on the loin. He's tight. He feels good. But when it comes to leathers, I like them slick-sheared so I can see the muscle quality. After all, these are market animals. What we're judging is the overall muscle value and what we're getting out of the meat. Next time, maybe just a little bit of a slick shear, and we can tell what's going on underneath there. I round out the class with a leather who's just, once again, he's got a little bit too much poundage for me. You put your hands on him, he's a little loose. He's got some fat around the edges up top. He's got some fat on the end. But when it comes to structure, again, he's a nice animal. We just got to avoid getting too heavy with these leathers.
Class 45, first place, Grace Nobby. Second, Sam Cathy. And third, Evan Kors. We're now ready for Class 46, 86 to 90 pounds. Tinsley Broussard, Zeke Dillon, and Tanner Kors. Classes 47 and 48 need to be on deck. Those are our last 2 classes. All first and second place class winners will need to be on deck for our selection of Grand and Reserve Grand.
Class 46 coming in the ring, 86 to 90 pound wethers. This is just like the last class, pretty close in weights. We have 2 coming in at 89 and 1 coming in at 90. So really, Had a little bit of trouble right there, but that's okay. Just dust them off and keep going. So it should be a pretty competitive class. We will see.
Quite an extraordinary weather to start off the class, one that just shows us everything we're kind of looking for. He's super, super powerful in that front end. I mean, that's probably the most muscle I've touched on a weather all day in the chest. We've got plenty of bone structure. Yes, there's some hair fitted up there, but there's plenty underneath it. When we get our hands up top, I mean, he's just rock solid. As we travel back, it just doesn't change the whole time. You're feeling nothing but muscle as far as long as you go. When we examine them structurally, you can really, really appreciate the top line on this weather. Most of the time, when we get the animals that are working like this, they like to break behind those shoulders, but this dude just stays solid. As you move into second place, we've got another one that you can just appreciate while you have your hands on him. As you travel down his back, you can just appreciate the tightness of the muscle, the development of it. But where he just starts to lack is just in sheer power of structural correctness. We don't quite have the separation as first place does in the chest, and we don't quite have the width in the back that he does. I round out the class with the leather who's very tall. For a weather, we're kind of looking a little bit more for power, and this dude's just a little bit more built for leanness. As you get your hands on him, he has the muscle, he has some stuff out back, he just doesn't have the power we're looking for in a market animal.
Class 46, first place, Tinsley Brusaw. Second, Zeke Dillon. And third, Tanner Coors. We're now ready for Class 47. There's one entry weighing 95 pounds, Baylor Brusaw.
Like you said, this is class 47. One entry at 95 pounds. A really solid weather that you can't quite see on screen.
Once again, we have a weather that I could just walk out here all day. When you watch him on the move, you can just see that power rippling throughout that shoulder and throughout that hip. When we get him stopped and this young man gets him set, it's once again one of those weathers that you put your hands on and it's nothing like a rock. You get on there and it's nothing but developed muscle from the loin all the way down to the butt. There's quite literally nothing that you want to feel other than that. As we get up front and examine his chest fur, he's got the depth, he's got the power, he's even got some bulk along his neck. This young man's definitely worked hard with this animal, and definitely a weather we can all appreciate.
Class 47, first place, Baylor Brusaw. And our last weather class, Class 48, 102 pounds, Maddie Brusaw. We're going to need all first and second place winners on deck, ready for selection of Grand and Reserve Grand Champion Market Weather.
So this weather coming in weighs in at 102 pounds. Also another solid weather that you can actually see on screen this time. We will see what the judge has to say about him.
here's another one that I just like to look at. When we get them out here and put them on the move, at first you look at him and think he might just be a little bit too overweight. You see some jiggle, but once this young lady gets him stuck, everything tightens up. It's nothing but loose skin and nothing but muscle underneath there. When we look at him from the back, he's definitely got one heck of a hind end. As we get up front, he's got the depth of on the chest floor that I'm looking for. But what I think I appreciate about this wether most is the length of body that he holds even with the muscle that he has. Normally when we have wethers that are super muscular, they tend to be a little bit shorter bodied, but this one definitely isn't. He's got the length of body and the muscle to be competitive at any stage.
Class 48, first place, Maddie Broussard. At this time, we need all of our first and second place wethers. Starting with the heaviest, first place, Maddie Broussard. Next class, Baylor Broussard. Then we need Tinsley Broussard and Zeke Dillon. Then Grace Nobby and Samuel Caffey. Chloe Kramer, Ariana Thomas, Rylan Badel, Adeline Froling. Then we need Hensley Badel, Camille Deaton. And then Luke Littmer, Tatum Froling. And then Nora Amberger and Hensley Badel and Kinsey Froling. Following the selection of our Grand and Reserve Grand Meat Wether, we'll be moving into our Pygmy Wethers and then commercial wethers.
Right, Grand Champion Market Weather Drive going on right now. There's a lot of goats in here. A lot of good goats, competitive ones. This judge has been really thorough all day, looking at, everything from muscle condition to underline, on breeding stock. So I have no doubts that he'll pick the quality winner. We will see. He's got a lot of quality animals in here to work with, that's for sure.
Say this is probably one of the most competitive weather shows that I've ever done at a county fair. Here we see nothing
Right, entering the ring now is Class 50. This is Pygmy Weathers, 1 year old and older. If it's a little quieter than it has been, my compadre Jaden left me a little bit ago. I've been studying these goats as they've come in, so I'm sorry, but I also figure that me not yapping is not necessarily a bad thing either.
In this class of Pygmy Weathers, we have one that just kind of separates himself in terms of muscle focus. When we get our hands on this guy, I don't know if it's because of how feisty he is, or if he's just moving around that much, but that muscle is very, very well developed. It's very tight, it's very lean, and when we get our hands on it, we just don't find a single fat on his whole body. I really do like the way that he comes out of his chest into his head and neck as well. Structurally, he completes himself, and then muscle wise, he just feels more solid. As we get to reserve, we see one that has plenty of bone. It's got plenty of the chest forward. I think what just separates it is in that hip, he gets a little bit more narrow. And when we put our hands on him, there's maybe just a trim of fat around his loin compared to the one in front of him. As we get to the third, we have one that's just big. I mean, he's just big. He's big bone, he's deep chested, he's big hipped. But what we find is there's a problem. Although he's big, he's a little sloppy in terms of his muscle tone. When we get our hands behind his shoulders, we especially feel just a lot of movement. We don't feel a whole lot of compaction in terms of where the muscle should be. As we get into these last three, we get to the three animals that are very similar in terms of size, in terms of bone structure, and in terms of structure in general. But when we get our hands on them, all three seem to just be a slowly degrading muscle tone. We start off with one that's got a little, there's definitely some fat on it, definitely some loose skin behind the shoulder that we would like to see. And we find a little bit more fat and a little bit more. But overall, three good animals in terms of structure and bone quality.
Pygmy Weather class, first place and grand champion Pygmy Weather goes to Isabella Taylor. Second place and reserve grand champion Pygmy Weather, Reese Beaver. Third, Chloe Kramer. Fourth, Anaya Stainbrook. Fifth, Jackson Clark. And sixth, Elia Stainbrook. Congratulations. We're now ready for our commercial weather. Our first class has one entry, Henry S. at 62 pounds. Class 52 needs to be ready. Following that, we'll select one of the market dam classes.
All right, this first commercial weather class coming in, 60 to 64 pounds. This is a 62-pound weather. Class 52 making its way into the ring. 85 to 89 pounds. Zeke Dillon with his 85-pound weather, and Brooklyn Robbins with her 89-pound weather.
I start this class with a smaller body, larger framed animal who just completes himself with muscle tone a little bit better. When you get your hands on this animal, he's got maybe about 5 pounds of fat too much with the heel areas, but underneath it is some really, really tight muscle that almost pops out. You see a lot of meat go in up that front chest. I mean, he's real wide, he's got lots of muscle bone, and he keeps it all the way to the hip, which is surprising thing to see. When we get to second place,
have Grand Champion Commercial Weather Drive going on right now.
It's just a little bit more visually appealing. We're not as sharp and steep out of our hooks and pins, and we're not quite as flat when it comes to the rear end. Overall, 3 really good animals as I go and shake the hand of your Grand Reserve.
Our Grand Champion Commercial Weather goes to Zeke Dillon, and our Reserve Grand Champion Commercial Weather goes to Henry Hess. Congratulations. We're now ready for our market dam classes. We have 2 classes. Our first is Class 53, 49 pounds, Hensley Badel, Ryland Badel. We have 2 entries. Class 54 on deck.
I apologize. I had the commercial weather drive muted, at least for the judge's mic for part of that, so I do apologize for that. He said what kind of helped him distinguish his decision for that class. Well, that group of commercial weathers was the ratio of bulk muscle to lean muscle that you get from both meat and dairy breeds. So once again, I apologize for that. But right now, we are now on to the market dam portion of the meat goat show. It's class 43. These are market dam doelings weighing in at 49 pounds, and there are 2 entries, Hensley Badel and Ryland Badel.
Boy, it's always a hard decision when you have 2 does that look this similar. Both of them are extremely similar in style and very extremely similar in muscle composure. I think where we can only separate them is that maybe just a touch in the back end. When we get our hands on that rear end in the first place though, she's just a little bit tighter. She's a little bit more rounded. And then as we get back into our second place though, she maybe just wants to get a touch flat out of her hind, and it just kind of separates her from today. But overall, 2 very similar does and 2 very well-rounded does.
In Class 53, Hensley Badel first, Ryland Badel second. We're now ready for our second and last class for Market Dam. We have 2 entries weighing between 70 and 74 pounds, Camille Deaton and Zeke Dillon. Then we'll need all 4 of those back for our Grand and Reserve Grand Drive.
Class 54 coming in right now, 70 to 74 pounds for Market Dam does. We have 2 entries, and they are weighing in at 71 and 74 pounds. They're in the ring, I promise. We've just got some walking difficulties, but here we come. Very slowly, but we're making our way.
Here's 2 does that you could spend all day looking at. As you examine them on the move and you examine them from afar, they're pretty similar. But when we get our hands on them, there's a very clear difference in between these 2. The first place doe is much wider in her loin. She's much tighter, and just overall muscle mass in that loin is quite exponential. As well as in that rear end, she wants to hold it a little bit higher up in her body, and she wants to keep it a little bit tighter. When we get our hands on that second place doe, sure, she's tight in that loin, but she's about 2 inches narrower and maybe just about a little bit floppier in that back 1/3. But overall, 2 great does.
Class 54, first place, Camille Deaton and Zeke Dillon in second. Now we're selecting our Grand and Reserve Grand Market Dam. We have all 4 entries in there, first and second place.
Grand Champion Market Dam drive going on right now between these 2 classes.
With only 4 market does out here, it's a tighter race than it normally would be. But when we get our hands on these animals, we just see a very clear distinction with age. The older these animals get, the more time they have to develop muscle, the more time they have to tone that muscle, and it just feels better under the hand. When we get them on the move, we see more muscle definition in that shoulder and hip. For me, when I want to see these does, I kind of want to see some qualities in a brood doe too, but not too many. We're not necessarily looking for the femininity that we would be in brood doe, but we still want to see some gracefulness in the neck. We still want to see all that, but we also want the power and muscle definition of the leather. And so when we go out here today and we pick our Grand and Reserve, we're just kind of looking for anything that would pass on in terms of muscle definition. We're looking for points of the shoulder. We're looking for hip definition everywhere that we can to be filled with muscle.
grand champion in Market Dam goes to Camille Deaton, and our reserve grand champion Market Dam goes to Zeke Dillon. Congratulations. We're now ready for our mini 4-H'ers. You have to be signed up and on this list to show in the mini 4-H'ers. So I have Everett Nobby, Graydon Badel, Griff Biller, Griffin Manning, Hazel Biller, Holland Badel, Knox Whipple, Maverick Herbert, Morgan Dykes, Samuel Haining, Sophia Hess, and Warren Huffmeyer. Those are all of our mini 4-H goat members. There are 12 of them. That's excellent. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge our tenure members, Reese Beaver, Luke Cathy, Camille Deaton, and Laney Ferris. Congratulations on being 10-year members. First-year members, Elijah Allen, Laney Amrine, Jackson Clark, Dakota Gerhardt, Emma Hash, Charlotte Hess, Henry Hess, Emmett Littmer, Luke Littmer, Elliot Manning, Samuel Nobby, Samantha Knowles, James Versman. Congratulations to our first-year members.
You want to do awards immediately?
If you didn't catch that, the 10-year members are Reese Beaver, Luke Cathy, Camille Deaton, and Laney Ferris.
For our award ceremony.
really showmanship has got to be my favorite part of any county fair. You come out here, especially as a past 4-H'er, and you can just appreciate that these kids are coming out here for the first time, showing these animals, and just trying it for the first time. Oftentimes, this is where it all starts. This is where our future 10-year 4-H members, and it's just cool to see all these kids out here. Most of them, everybody knew the name of their animal. Most of them come out here, and they're happy as can be just to get a chance to show their animal, and it's just really cool to see.
Congratulations to our mini 4-H'ers. As they exit the ring, they have a little prize for you. I'd like to thank our judge today and wish him a safe trip home. And we'll start with our awards here in just a minute. So we'll need all of our 4-H'ers back in the ring. At this time, all of our 4-H GOAT members need to be inside the ring, please. We're going to do the awards. All 4-H members inside the ring, please, and we'll start our awards.
We'll start with 10-year, first year, and then go to showmanship.
All right, we are moving into the awards portion of the 4-H Goat Show. I will leave this running a little bit so we can highlight, our very hardworking 4-H Goat members.
You're fine, yeah. You can count.
Okay, all 4-H'ers should be inside the show ring, please.
If you have to go somewhere, right down the road.
Well, it's about 4.
This is amazing how many 4-H'ers are in this show ring right now. Let's give them a round of applause, please. This is amazing. What a good group. And thank you to family members and parents, because it takes a whole group, a village to do this. We'll start out with our 10-year members. Reese Beaver, Luke Cathy, Camille Deaton, Lainey Ferris. Congratulations to those 4 10-year members. Now, first-year members. Elijah Allen, Lainey Amrine, Jackson Clark, Dakota Gerhardt, Emma Hash, Charlotte Hess, Henry Hess, Emmett Littmer, Luke Littmer, Elliot Manning, Sam Nobby, Samantha Knowles, James Versman. Congrats to our first year members. we'll start with the dairy showmanship, beginners. First place, Reed Whipples. Second place, Jackson Clark. Come up. Intermediate, Brooklyn Robbins, Josie Hartman. Senior, Riley Hash.
Second, intermediate.
Senior, first, Riley Hash. Second, Brooklyn Robbins. Expert, first, Kennedy Sundel. Second, Allison Badel.
Hi, how are you? Okay, then do meat.
Our meat goat showmanship, beginner, first place, Xander Dillon. Second, Audrey Siebert. Intermediate, first place, Tatum Froling. Second place, Hensley Badel. Senior showmanship, first place, Grace Nobby. Second, Zeke Dillon. Expert showmanship, Reese Beaver. Second place, Grace Nobby.
What are you doing first? Junior dough, dairy?
Our grand champion dairy junior dough. Grand champion junior dairy dough goes to Logan Badel. Our reserve grand goes to Landon Badel.
Senior dairy dough.
Our grand champion dairy senior dough goes to Reed Whipple. Our reserve grand dairy senior dough, Brooklyn Robbins.
Dairy weather.
Our dairy weathers, our grand champion goes to Kennedy Sundel. Our reserve grand goes to Nolan Clark.
Grand champion for junior dough.
Our grand champion junior bower dough goes to Elijah Allen. Our reserve grand champion junior bower dough goes to Grace Nobby.
Can you do grand champion senior bower dough?
Our grand champion senior bower dough goes to Grace Nobby. And our reserve grand champion senior bower dough goes to Chloe Kramer.
And then bower weather. Brand reserve.
Our grand champion market neat weather, Tinsley Broussard. Our reserve grand champion market neat weather, Baylor Broussard.
Grand and reserve commercial dough.
Our grand champion
It's after the senior dough board. Right there.
Our grand champion senior commercial dough goes to Lainey Ferris. And our reserve grand champion senior commercial dough, Brooklyn Robbins.
Commercial market weather next. Grand reserve.
Our grand champion commercial market weather
Zeke Dillon.
goes to Zeke Dillon. Our reserve grand champion commercial weather goes to Henry Hess.
Weather champion and reserve, Weather Dam.
Okay, our grand champion market dam goes to Camille Deaton. And our reserve grand champion market dam goes to Zeke Dillon.
Champion junior pygmy doe.
Our grand champion junior pygmy doe goes to Elliot Manning. And our reserve grand champion junior pygmy doe goes to Sloan Ennis.
And then the pygmy senior doe, grand and reserve.
Our grand champion senior pygmy doe goes to Chloe Kramer. And our reserve grand champion senior pygmy doe goes to Reese Beaver.
Pygmy weather.
Our grand champion pygmy weather goes to Isabella Taylor. And our reserve grand champion pygmy weather goes to Reese Beaver.
Dairy group classes. What order do they go in? Does it get a sire?
Our dairy group classes
First.
get a sire, Caitlin Badel. Produce of dam, first place, Allison Badel. Another daughter, first place, Brooklyn Robbins.
Do boar group classes.
Lower group classes, first place, Grace Nobby. And get a sire.
Okay.
Produce of dam, first place, Grace Nobby. And another daughter, first place, Grace Nobby.
Pygmy.
Pygmy group classes, get a sire, first place, Chloe Kramer. Produce of dam, first place, Chloe Kramer.
Will you announce rate of gain will be given out at auction with Herdsman Awards?
The rate of gain and the Herdsman Awards will be given out at the auction. This concludes our show. Thank you, everyone.
Alrighty, thank you so much for listening in to the 2025 Decatur County 4-H Goat Show. We're glad you stuck around with us all afternoon. Congratulations to all the exhibitors on all of their hard work this year in the Goat Project. We hope to see you next year. Signing out, this is Michaela LaRue. Until next time.